Now, it's a mountain whose climbing is shaping as a political pilgrimage and whose high numbers are central in succession politics, a region that is at the heart of the August polls. Good evening. We debate the central question on Pundit Night tonight. But first, these are the stories making headlines tonight. IEBC records more than 22 million registered voters in the audited voter register.
The total number of registered voters is 22,120,458.
The number has risen from 19 million voters in 2019. Also tonight, Health Ministry urges wearing of masks in public places.
The country has witnessed a steady rise in the number of new cases and a slow rise in the overall positivity rate.
The government is concerned over the rise in COVID-19 numbers. Plus, Raila woos Kajiado County while DP Ruto meets grassroots leaders in Nakuru County, both promising to revive the economy. And government urges parents with learners in primary schools that have built competency-based curriculum classrooms to consider retaining their children in the schools. Catherine Simaloi is our sign language interpreter. Good evening. I'm Abu Bakr Abdullahi. Welcome to the broadcast. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Dispute Tribunal is yet to deliver its ruling on the Mike Sonko case. It has been a day-long wait for the ruling that has been pushed on a number of occasions. Let's cross over to the courts and listen in.
That the respondent came up with a defeatist demand to block his client from contesting. That she changed the rules because it was not a requirement in law for one to present a copy of a certificate certified by the university. He therefore argued that since it was not a requirement of the law that a copy of the degree certificate should be certified by the university, the complainant should have been cleared, despite the certified degree certificate being submitted late. On this ground, it was submitted on behalf of the complainant that Article 75 of the Constitution forms part of Chapter 6 of the Constitution. As such, the focus is on Article 193, 2G. Counsel highlighted the expression in accordance with any law in quotes within the provision to emphasize his argument that the two provisions speak the same language. To bring this into perspective, counsel stated that Article 75 of the Constitution must be read together with Article 99.3 and 193.2G and 3 of the Constitution. With this in mind, counsel submitted that the complainant brought to the attention of the respondent that he had an active appeal, but the respondent insisted that she needed to see evidence to prove that he indeed had an active appeal against his removal from office of governor, Nairobi County, through impeachment by the Senate. Counsel explained that they had supplied the respondent with a letter written by the complainant's advocate confirming that indeed there was an active appeal which the respondent ignored. Counsel told the committee that the documents that were handed over to the respondent by the complainant on 7th June 2022 included a petition of appeal and the court's directions that the matter will be mentioned on 10th June 2022 before the Deputy Registrar for further directions. He asserted that these documents were presented to the respondent via a forwarding letter from his law firm. Council further explained that the following day, 8th June 2022, the Office of the Registrar of the Supreme Court of Kenya wrote a letter confirming that indeed there was an active appeal before the Supreme Court challenging the Court of Appeal's decision on the question of complainant's impeachment by the Senate. Counsel argued that once presented with the document, the respondent was duty-bound under Article 47 of the Constitution to take a step and investigate.
Well, those are live pictures from Milimani, where the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission's Dispute Tribunal is set to give its verdict and judgment in reference to Mike Sonko's case. Remember, Sonko is contesting for the Mombasa gubernatorial seat, and the ruling will be determinant to whether the electoral poll body will allow him to contest for that seat. Senior political affairs reporter Apollo Kamau is at Milimani. We will be crossing over once we have an update. Still on matters, IEBC and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission now says that there are more than 22 million registered voters in the August polls. According to the audited report by KMPG, the Commission will be working with over 40,000 polling stations. And as Josh Onsare now reports, 3 IEBC officials are being probed for abnormal transfer of voters.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission have received the audited voters register from the KPMG. In the audited register in preparation for the August 2022 polls contains a total of 22,120,458 voters, which represents 50.88% male and 49.12% female.
As the Commission briefs the country today, it's equally pleased to announce that the total number of registered voters is 22,120,458. There's also been a noticeable increase among prisoners and diaspora. In prisons, 2017 we had 5,182 registered voters. In 2022, 7,483. And diaspora, 2017, 4,223. In 2022, 10,444.
In the audited register, IEBC has reported that 246,265 deceased voters were expunged from the register. The August general election will be conducted in 46,232 polling stations.
In 2017, we had 40,883 polling stations, and for 2022, we shall have 46,232 polling stations. This gives a growth rate of 13.08%.
The audit revealed that 4,757 voters were registered more than once. IEBC affirming that abnormalities in voter transfers were reversed and the suspects will be apprehended upon the completion of the investigations this week.
KPMG reviewed controls over the database and infrastructure control and made recommendations on strengthening controls over application, database, and infrastructure to ensure security of the register of voters. The Commission has already commenced implementation of KPMG recommendations, with the third parties providing the Commission with IT support.
The Commission insisting that it has enough backup in case the KIMS kit fail.
The design of the KIMS kit is that it will use SD card, which is going to have information regarding the voters for that specific polling station. So the way we have organized is that we'll have backups KIMS kit in each and every ward. We'll have more than 4 backup kits.
The Commission further says it has invested all its efforts to address majority of pre-election day issues identified from the audit, and at the same time implementing the election operations plan.
KPMG audit has identified a number of issues that can enhance accuracy and credibility in the register of voters. The audit has also recommended that IEBC gives priority to implementing a medium-term transformational program to ensure that it has systems, capacity, and structure that will enable its role in anticipation of a fresh registration process before the 2027 general election.
Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, Nairobi Senator and gubernatorial aspirant Johnson Sakaja was this afternoon grilled by DCI officials after he presented himself. Sakaja had been summoned at the DCI headquarters in the ongoing investigations over his Ugandan degree. Sakaja, however, says he presented everything that he had been demanded for, awaiting for the investigation to be completed. Sakaja was cleared by IEBC on Sunday after the Wafula Chebukati-led commission dismissed petitions that were seeking to bar him from contesting for the county's top job. DCI is, however, investigating claims of forgery.
Of course, we abided by those summons. We are cooperating with them. They asked us questions. We asked them also questions. And after asking them questions, they say they're going to respond to us. So that is what we are waiting for. The DCI had made prejudicial comments that were in one of the dailies. So it seems that you've already done your investigation and you've formed your mind and you've taken a part in this, and that as opposed to what the directorate must be, which is unbiased, non-political, non-partisan, already you've taken a position that is partisan, that is biased, that isn't political, when he says that we cannot allow certain people to take leadership of the capital. So I've said all of this has been political. And so we've asked them to respond to that, and then we continue engaging. But we're cooperating with everything that would be required from us, from this side. It's also interesting that we've noted, by the time we got in, one Mr. Gashomo had been engaged in a very deep conversation with an associate, a close associate to one of our opponents. We found them there together. I don't think he was expecting us. And we've noted that in our statement, which alludes also to the bias that we've been talking about.
Meanwhile, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential flag bearer Raila Odinga intensified his vote hunt in Kajiado County on Monday ahead of the polls. Raila urging residents to rally behind him as he seeks to be elected Kenya's 5th president. Mike Kagongo tells us more.
With 49 days remaining to the August 9th polls, Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua say they will leave no stone unturned in seeking for votes from Kenyans across the country. Monday afternoon, the two alongside their allies pitched the Azimio la Umoja tents in Rongai and Kiserian in Kajiado County before arriving in Ngong to an overwhelming reception. Odinga said they are out on a mission for an economic turnaround so as to improve the lives of Kenyans.
Ya kulimo, kupande ya mbegu, kupande ya mbolea na kupande ya soko. Soko sawa sawa. Alafu tutajenga viwanda. Kila county, one county, one product. One county, tutazidisha pesa ambayo inatoka Nairobi kuja mashinani. Tutapanda kutoka 15 kwa 100 hadi 35 kwa 100 pesa za kuja mashinani.
He urged members of the Maa community to maintain peace during this electioneering period, promising solutions to challenges that affect development in Kajiado if elected to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Barabara hii ambayo inatoka Nairobi kupitia Ngorongai, kupitia hapa Kiserian mpaka kona baridi itakuwa dual carriageway. Sasa sisi tunasema tunataka kuimarisha hali ya maisha ya Wakenya wote. Kwa upande matibabu, vituo vya matibabu ziko mbali na hakuna dawa ndani yake. Tunaleta dawa na daktari na manases.
Ikiwa wapinzani wetu wamekuja kuahidi mabilioni hapa na pale bila kusimama na kuapa kupambana na ufisadi, ujue hiyo ni ahadi ya mdomo peke yake. Mimi nimesimama nyuma ya baba sababu na muamini anataka kuinua hali ya maisha ya kila Mkenya na kwa serikali yake.
Odinga promised free primary education from primary to tertiary level if elected as part of his manifesto.
Kuanzia mwaka ujao, kila mtoto ambaye amezaliwa katika taifa letu, hata kama wazazi hawana pesa, atakuwa na fursa sawa kuanzia nursery, primary, secondary, tertiary mpaka chuo kikuu. Hakuna karo tena.
Na naona leo mekuja kukata kauli kusema rais wa 5 wa Jamhuri ya Kenya ni Raila Amolo Odinga.
Ukiangalia wewe pamoja na mama, mna historia ndefu Kenya hii ya watu ambao wamesimama na kupigania haki. Ile pande ingine imejaa mikora. Ukiangalia list kuanzia juu mpaka chini unafikiria ni ripoti ya chief.
Huyu Daktari Ngedienya na Manje hapa tunakuja tunasema baba aende State House.
With Raila maintaining that the digital generation cannot ride a wheelbarrow, he continued to lay a basket full of promises to Kenyans ahead of August 9th general elections. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Ngong Stadium in Ngong, Kajiado County.
Meanwhile, Deputy President William Ruto has said the Kenya Kwanza administration will work closely with players in the manufacturing sector to create jobs. Ruto spoke when he met players in the manufacturing sector before heading to Nakuru. Chichi Josephine now reports.
The Kenya Kwanza presidential candidate held a private meeting with Njoro sub-county leaders and residents discussing matters peace ahead of the general election.
Wale wanawauzia uoga hapa Nakuru ni kwa sababu hawana sera, hawana mpango.
During the meeting, DP Ruto said the Kenya Kwanza is firm on communities and leaders actively accepting and embracing diversity. He promised to build a cohesive, peaceful and a better Kenya for everyone.
Rift Valley sasa ni bonde la amani. Watu wote wanaoishi katika hii Rift Valley, sisi tumesoma vizuri matatizo ya siasa ya ukabila na chuki, na hatuwezi kurudi mahali pale tena. Tunapiga hatua kwenda mbele kujenga Rift Valley ambayo ni ya Wakenya wote kujivunia kuwa wakazi wa bonde hili la amani.
DP Ruto spoke at his current residence where he hosted the Kenya Association of Manufacturers KAM for a consultative meeting. The deputy president said the Kenya Kwanza administration will create an enabling environment for the manufacturing sector to realize its full potential and build the sector's capacity for innovation, guarantee access to affordable credit.
And our focus is in the area of SMEs. Our thinking, and we have worked with numbers with Professor Ndi and his team, is that if we worked with these people and we simply made them access credit at 14% like all of us, we could easily grow their incomes between 500 and 700 shillings a day.
DP Ruto says the Kenya Kwanza is committed to harnessing the potential of the manufacturing sector. Ruto says his government is ready to build the sector's capacity for innovation, guarantee access to affordable credit, and invest in whatever it takes to create growth and momentum in the crucial sector.
We only have the chance to reduce your taxes if we have more people paying. You don't have a chance of us, say, reducing VAT from 16% to 14%, for example. We will only have that chance if we have a bigger pool of people contributing.
And when you talk about taxation, when you talk about regulations, when you talk about starting a company, investment, everything, there's a huge lot of bureaucracy. And as Kenya Kwanza, we are committed in cutting the fat and cutting the bureaucracy make it simple for you. As you used to say, our job is not to frustrate business, but to facilitate business.
He says the manufacturing sector is one of our strongest paths to sustained economic growth.
We are looking at an economy that is production-led.
Chichi Josephine, TV 47.
In fact, investment-led.
Away from politics, let's get to matters health now. And the Ministry of Health has emphasized on the need of wearing face masks in confined places such as PSVs, offices, supermarkets, marketplaces, and even places of worship. Speaking to journalists earlier today, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe said even though the wearing of face masks remains optional, the rise in COVID-19 cases is worrying with the possibility of getting far worse. Our health reporter Zainab Mohammed now reports.
Kenyans have been advised to wear face masks in confined and public spaces such as PSVs, aircraft, supermarkets, offices, marketplaces, and even places of worship. Speaking to journalists on Monday, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe says even though the wearing of face masks remains optional, the rise in COVID-19 cases is worrying with the possibility of getting far worse.
With regard to wearing of face masks, the mandatory wearing of face masks in open public spaces, where one is not in close proximity with another person, remains optional. However, one is required to wear a mask when in contact with other people in close confined spaces such as PSVs, aircrafts, offices, supermarkets, marketplaces, and places of worship.
According to Kagwe, a number of catalysts are fueling the increase in COVID-19 cases in the country, including the cold weather that is expected to go on for the next 3 months, a low uptick in COVID-19 vaccination, and an increase in influenza cases reported mainly in 3 out of 8 surveillance sites.
A number of challenges that are going to affect these numbers. The first one is that we are in a political season, where everybody is out there in the open, many gatherings continuously at all times. The second situation, of course, the weather and the temperatures that we are experiencing during this influenza period. The third one that we are experiencing as a challenge is also the slow uptick of vaccination rates that we have, up from over 300,000 per day down to about 12,000 per day, and now likely dropping to about 5,000 per day.
County governments have also been advised to revamp their ICUs and scale up their oxygen supplies in readiness for a surge in hospitalization due to COVID-19 infections.
The ministry has adequate rapid antigen test kits for distribution to all counties. Counties are also urged to revamp their isolation facilities and secure adequate supplies of PPEs, and particularly prepare with oxygen supplies as part of preparedness to manage any surge of cases.
The weekly average positivity rate has been on the rise over the past couple of weeks, from a low of 0.6% last month to 10.74% this month. On Monday, the country recorded a total of 252 new COVID-19 cases, with a positivity rate now at 12.6%. Zainab Mohammed, T47.
Thank you, Zainab Mohammed, for that. Let's get to matters education. And the Education Cabinet Secretary, Professor George Magoha, has urged parents with learners in primary schools that have built competency-based curriculum classrooms to consider retaining their children in the schools as they join junior secondary schools. Magoha says the plan would avoid scrambling for secondary school slots like witnessed after KCPE exams. Our Senior Education Affairs reporter Sharon Baranga now reports.
More than 1.2 million learners in grade 6 will be joining junior secondary school next year. The government is in the process of finalizing measures to ensure the transition to junior secondary schools is smooth. A bulk of classes that are being constructed under the competency-based curriculum are complete. Private schools have been given a target of 5,000 classrooms.
Going forward, the government of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has now almost completed the first lots. We have a few spots like in Bungoma where I'm going to be most of this week to ensure that we complete, and one or two other counties in the Rift Valley. Everybody else has completed. So we have 0.5% of the classrooms, but there's no 0.5% of a child. We want to be sure that all classrooms are built.
CS Magoha has urged parents with learners in primary schools that have built competency-based curriculum classrooms to consider retaining their children in the schools as they join junior secondary schools.
I would like to encourage the other private schools, and for the purposes of junior secondary school, it would be very important for the parents who already have their children in private schools to retain them in junior secondary schools that are established within those schools, so that the cutthroat competition that comes after standard 8 be postponed to year 9.
The pupils will be guided on how to select the secondary schools they hope to join in January.
The only thing that is left for us to come public with is precisely how the children are going to select where they are going to go. And we are almost completing that because, first of all, the children will apply, and we shall have told them the number of schools that are available. I'm encouraging the private schools, which we shall have said are ready for junior high school, also to allow the children to apply in a public platform so that they are placed through that platform.
The education boss took a jab at politicians having a hard time proving they graduated from universities.
It is just very shameful that we are spending so much energy in the courts or the people who are supposed to be doing election. It is a very simple matter. You have either done a degree and graduated, or you have not. A judge cannot give you a degree. That's what I used to say, that it doesn't matter whether a judge pronounces himself, he cannot give you a degree.
Magoha was speaking from Moi Educational Center, where he had gone to officially launch newly constructed CBC classrooms. Sharon Baranga, TV 47.
Thank you, Sharon Baranga, for that report. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission's Dispute Tribunal is delivering its ruling on the Mike Sonko case. It has been a day-long wait for the ruling that has been pushed on a number of occasions. We have live pictures of that ruling. Let's cross over to Milimani Law Courts and listen in.
As the case may be, and such certificate shall be dated and subscribed by such officer with his name and his official title, and shall be sealed whenever such officer is authorized by law to make use of seal, and such copies so certified shall be called certified copies. It may be true that in 2017 the complainant was cleared using copies of his degree certificate certified by his advocate. That does not take away the requirement that for purposes of the 2022 elections, the Commission require the same to be certified by the issuing institution. It is important to note that the requirement that a degree certificate be certified by the issuing institution was a requirement for all candidates, not only the complainant. To this end, we note that nothing has been placed before this Commission to show that other than the complainant, every other aspirant of equal rank was not required to have their degree certificate certified by the issuing university in order to found a claim for discrimination. The committee notes that the complainant has admitted that this certified copy was presented to the respondent after 4 p.m. This is the same position of the respondent who produced a confirmation that she did indeed receive the original certificate and a duly certified copy at 4:40 12:42 p.m. Thus, it is clear that these particular documents were late. However, we understand the complainant to be saying that this should not bar his clearance, as he himself was within the registration center before 4 p.m. Counsel for the complainant argued that since
we crossed that out, yeah, 54, oh yeah, 5, oh, yes. 56, yes. Yeah, we go straight to 57.
Oh yes. In DRC complaint number 236 of 2002, Anthony Mutembei Julius versus Returning Officer Egembe South Constituency, where the complainant claimed that he arrived at the registration center, but his banker's check, which he didn't have at the time, he presented himself before the respondent was delivered to him while he was still at the registration center, and according to that complainant, it was his banker's check that was late, and not himself, since he was still at the registration center on time. The committee, in dismissing the complainant, observed as follows. The committee finds and holds that the responsibility of obtaining the banker's check as well as the list of supporters was within the purview of the complainant, and his failure to present the said check and list of supporters within the prescribed time was his own. His omission could have been avoided had he prepared adequately for the nomination process. Counsel further argued that if the complainant had presented his documents on 6th June 2022 and there was a problem, he could still have had a chance to bring the documents the following day on 7th June 2022. Granted, if the complainant had appeared before the respondent a day or so before the deadline, he would have had an opportunity to resubmit his documents. To the committee, it is clear that by the time the complainant presented his degree certificate duly certified by the university, he had already been disqualified. Regulation 2 of the Elections General Regulations 2012 defines close of nomination to mean 4 o'clock in the afternoon of the last nomination day for respective election. The IEBC issued a Gazette Notice number 434 on 20th January 2022, in which the Commission prescribed at paragraph K that the last day for the nomination of county governor election was Tuesday, 7th June 2022 at 4 p.m. In Edward Mukaya Kamala, Independent Electoral and versus Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, 2017,
well, those are live pictures from Milimani Law Courts, where the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission's Dispute Resolution panel is delivering its judgment on the Sonko case. Remember, Sonko is intending to vie for the Mombasa gubernatorial position. Those are live pictures. Our senior political affairs reporter, Apollo Kamau, is there. We have our eyes and ears. We'll be briefing you accordingly in this bulletin of what transpires there. Time for us to take a short break here on TV 47 News tonight. Stay with us. We still have a lot lined up for you.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Tryson School of Medical Health and music bands every Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next set of millionaires are farmers, as we know agriculture has been and still is the backbone of our economy. As we traverse the different counties to meet different farmers, we ensure to get the story of how they started farming and even how they continue to penetrate the market and overcome the challenges.
Hapa, the reason why niliweka goose na si ducks. Goose, they are very easy to maintain.
A lot of farmers keep on calling, inquiring whether you're supposed to raise some seeds in the nursery or you're supposed to do them directly in the field.
The greenhouse helps us control the temperature because the temperature needs to be between 28 to 32 degrees.
Walk this journey with us every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. It's no secret, construction ain't cheap. But how do we make it affordable? Different individuals are finding ways of cutting down cost by use of pre-stressed slabs other than reinforced concrete, recycling plastics to make pavers.
The brick is stronger, it's cheaper, and it's lighter.
And recycling wastewater in your household.
What happens to my waste from the washroom, the solid waste? All that can break down.
Those are just but a few. Every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. we talk construction.
There's no alpha without an omega. There's no lead without any followers. No man is an island. We need each other. We need this conference.
We say it, we do it, we act it.
Kama una mpenzi wako, kila siku kama nilivyosema, kila siku mwishi mapenzi.
We don't toe the line, we set the standard. We don't eat the grass, we lead the pack. As an alpha male, you're also a leader. Not to just women, friends and family, but to everyone else you've never met before.
We are the beauty, the spice and the brains. The men's conference where men become alpha males.
And you can catch us every Wednesday at 10 p.m. This is The Grind. Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out.
And DJ Fatso, the Rally Fiesta at Buffalo Mall. 500.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. Here's our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user. Welcome back to TV 47 News tonight. Thank you for staying with Kenya's fastest growing television. Let's get to more news now. And the Registrar of Political Parties, Anne Deritu, has strongly condemned riots experienced on Sunday at Jacaranda grounds during the Kenya Kwanza Alliance campaigns. Speaking during the official launch of the Peace Caravan mission before, during and after the general election, Deritu said political parties have a responsibility to maintain peace in order to avoid violence similar to what was witnessed yesterday. Deritu cited the use of Kenya Kwisha and Kuzimia in political rallies as irrelevant, which may end up causing chaos during the electioneering period.
That is the reason why we are launching a caravan and telling them we condemn that. We condemn any intolerance and we must maintain. I do not think intolerance is sanctioned from the highest level, but at the highest level they must take responsibility by condemning intolerance and violence. It is not sanctioned by the parties. Probably there are individuals within political parties, but political parties must take responsibility in terms of condemning it and control of their supporters.
Therefore, we must work together, and that is the significance of what has happened today in launching this caravan. As NCIC, we have invited, first of all, the 4 presidential candidates on the 9th of July to come and sign what we have drafted as political decency and accountability charter.
Like what happened yesterday in Jacaranda, we are watching, and of course the 2 coalitions, they're the ones who are frontrunners when it comes to what is happening in the country. And as chairman for NCIC has put it, for us as IEBC, we are calling the 4 candidates on 11th and 12th of July, where they are coming to sign a peace pledge.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at different stages of life.
You know what's happening around you. Morning Cafe with heated political.
Despite being visually impaired, he is a jack of all trades. It is our quest to find answers on how to take care of children with special needs and those with disability. You do not need to see musical notes to understand music, but rather to have your soul feel the vibe.
Actually, for us to make a wheelchair, we have to take measurements of the user.
After doing my assessment, I get to know the parent, I get to know the heaviness she's carrying.
Disability comes at
A very warm welcome to Primetime Sports. My name is Dennis Otieno. Now let's start off with matters football. Football giants Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards earlier today got a financial reprieve after receiving 24 million shillings pledged by President Uhuru Kenyatta during the Mashemeji Derby earlier last month to support the teams. The money was handed over to Gor Mahia and AFC Leopards officials by State House Financial Officer Kinuthia Mbogwa. Plans over how the funds will be utilized were earlier released, stating that out of the 12 million shillings for each club, 2 million shillings will be handed to the players, while 10 million shillings will go to the clubs. The support comes 2 weeks after both clubs were each rewarded 1 million and 500,000 shillings respectively after participating in the Madaraka Cup on June 1st at the Nyayo National Stadium.